Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Invin and today I'm going to be bringing you guys a video on mob types, what types of weapons do well and what types of gems and attacks and things like that do well against certain mobs, what these mobs' resistances and weaknesses are, and of course going to go over some of the expeditions and see which sort of weapons and gems you want to be using in each one of those. So essentially like a weapon type and damage type guide versus certain mobs. Now, this is something that I've seen quite a lot of questions on here on YouTube and in the comments section, and of course in my Discord as well. People have been asking about what's the best type of weapon for Amrine Temple, the best type of weapon for Starstone Barrows, etc., and also kind of which type of damage does well against certain mobs. So that's what we are going to go over today. Jumping straight into it here, then we are using the website worldforge.gg. There will be a link to that in the description of today's video. I'm not affiliated with them, but this is a fantastic tool that they have. So a huge shout out to the guys over at WorldForge, and we're going to jump into it today. So on the top here, you can see I've used this website before for things like builds, but it has one little affix here, which is monster types. And now if we click onto this, this will show us, and I am in the bottom left with the camera there, but you can see everything. The last thing on that post there is just fire ruby, so you can see that right at the bottom there. So it tells us the types of mobs that we've currently got in New World, which are the Ancients, the Corrupted, the Lost, and Angry Earth, and it tells us what they are weak to. So for example, for the Ancients here, we've got they are weak to strike damage, which comes from the Warhammer currently, and lightning or topaz gems, meaning that if you have a weapon with a lightning gem on, you're going to do really well in things like Amrine Temple or against any ancient enemies that you see around, which generally are the skeleton looking guys. There's a few at the Shattered Obelisk, a few at the Amrine Temple area, quite a few different places throughout the game. Weaver's Fen on the big bridge, there's a lot of them there. Basically, they kind of roam these ancient citadel type places, and they're the skeletal looking enemies in the game, and they are weak to lightning and strike damage. They are resisting or take less damage from slash attacks, so things like the straight sword, nature gems, so amber gems, and fire gems or ruby gems. So nature damage, which is amber, kind of a problem for people who are using life stuff to try and do damage, so hopefully use your secondary there. And again, tanks who are using the straight sword, try and swap to your secondary there as you're going to do more damage. It's not to say you won't do any damage to these, you will still be able to kill them fairly quickly, particularly if you are of level. However, if you use something a little bit different or a different gem, for example, that's going to be much more effective against these enemies. Also, if you've got a fire gem on, that is going to be less effective against Ancients too. So if you're going to be putting up a set or putting up a kind of progression of character, like this weapon, this armor, etc. for Amrine Temple specifically, then I would stay away from ruby gems, amber gems, and try to go for a topaz gem if you've got one available. Moving on to the Corrupted then. The Corrupted are weak to nature gems or amber gems and arcane gems or sapphires, and they are weak to thrust damage, which currently comes from the rapier. They are resistant to ice or aquamarine gems, strike damage, so warhammers, and void or amethyst gems there as well. So kind of like the opposite to the Ancients. The Ancients were resistant to nature damage, Corrupted are weak to it, and again, Ancients were weak to the Warhammer, whereas Corrupted are resistant to it. But if you are going to be fighting the Corrupted, something good that you can use, obviously there is the rapier, they're weak to that. You can use nature gems, so again, for people who are playing a healer with a nature gem on their secondary weapon there, it's going to be really, really good against Corrupted, which is good news for the later game dungeons, which we'll get onto in a moment. And obviously arcane damage as well, which is through sapphire gems, can be really, really good for anyone who's doing like an int half build there as well. It is resistance to ice and void, and as well as strike damage, so try to avoid those gems if you go into a heavy corrupted area. Moving on to the Lost then. The Lost are weak to nature or amber gems, ice or aquamarine gems, and strike or warhammer damage, and they are resistant to thrust damage, which comes from the rapier. Again, kind of similar to the one before. You've got the nature gem shining through again, being something decent, so it's really worth having on. Particularly, this is why it's good for those healer players. Also, the ice gem doing well this time in favour of doing more damage instead of resistant. And we see the warhammer up the top again as being something which is good to use against these enemies. It's resistant to the rapier thrust, so maybe steer away from that one if you are fighting a lot of Lost. But again, it's not saying that you'll negate all damage from the rapier, it's just going to be less effective than other weapons. And finally here we've got the Angry Earth. The Angry Earth are weak to fire and slash from the straight sword, and they're resistant to lightning and thrust from the rapier. Again, putting the rapier on kind of like the back burner there, but it is still going to do damage, just not quite as much as some of the other stuff. And of course the topaz gem is resistant here, but they are weak to fire and the straight sword, which is good news for tanks, and it's good news for anybody trying to get a bit of fire scaling off their damage as well. And there's quite a decent bit of angry earth content, especially once you hit level 45-50ish plus. You're going to be in places like Eden's Grove where there's a lot of angry earth, so this is going to be super useful to know. So as you guys can see here, this is the current map of Eternum, and they've got all of the expeditions that we currently have available accessed under the dungeons tab at the top here. Now what you can see on the map is the red points here are the fast travel locations, so you can see where you'll be able to fast travel to should you want to go to them and not run from a city. And if we hover over each of these, it will tell us what type of enemies are there, or indeed you can hover over it as such on the map, and it tells us so Amrine Excavation has the type of monsters there which are ancients. They are weak to strike and lightning, and they are resistant to slash, nature and fire. So when you are trying to combine a weapon set or a certain skill set to go into Amrine Temple, you want to try and make sure you've got strike damage if possible, so that's 1 or 2 players using the Warhammer, and any lightning damage that you have available. So if you have some topaz gems early on, it might be worth throwing a tier 1 or 2 one onto the weapon you currently have if it has a slot on, so you can just do a little bit of extra damage against these ancients in the Amrine Excavation. Obviously this will be only a short-lived period of time, so I wouldn't recommend putting on a high tier gem or anything like that, but certainly if you've got one spare, it is worth putting on. And try to avoid nature, fire and slash damage. Obviously tanks are probably going to be using slash damage, so you're going to be doing a little bit less damage in that expedition, but you're still going to be just as effective with tanking, and you are still going to be able to damage them with these things, just less effectively. Moving on to Starstone Barrow then, this is again going to be the ancients, so you've got exactly the same as before, meaning that if you do manage to go ahead and throw a topaz gem onto a weapon, keep it handy in your storage until you've actually completed the level 35 expedition as well. Now albeit this one isn't part of the main story quest, you don't exactly have to do it. Most players will want to for a little bit of a gear upgrade, a little bit of a boost in XP, and as well Barchamedes does give another repeatable quest for this expedition, so it's certainly worth doing. Again, if you've got that topaz infused item like I mentioned there, make sure you keep it handy and try to steer away from nature and fire. But as I said there for the first one, again, if you have got some of these things by that point, you're working towards maybe a full build which does include some of these things, don't worry too much, as they still will do damage, just not quite as effectively as the others will. Next we're moving on to the depths here, and these type of mobs in the depths are corrupted, so you will see a lot of corrupted start to pop up from the main story once you reach the Brightwood section of the game, and from that point onwards, this is when you'll roughly be in the region. You'll be getting up to like level 25ish there, and as you go forward you'll start to see more and more of them as you go into the level 60 zones as well, particularly in Shattered Mountains and forward from there as well, because those areas have got a ton of corrupted in, as it kind of follows in with the lore and the main story. Now if you're going to be doing the depths, it's going to be a level 45 dungeon, and they're going to be weak to nature, arcane and thrust damage. That's going to be the rapier is going to shine through in this dungeon. Arcane damage is going to be from the gem, so the gem there is going to be really useful, and the amber gem there to give you the nature damage, which is good news for any healers that want to try and do a little bit of damage if maybe teammate goes down, they need to take a little bit of aggro for something, or indeed they're healing well and they've got their good auras on and they can just switch out and do a little bit of damage in the meantime. It is going to mean that you're going to have that opportunity, and not to mention any intelligence based players or any other based players for that matter that have got the gem on to convert some damage. Nature is going to be great in that one. It's not going to be as good, however, for ice, strike and void damage, so try to avoid those if you possibly can. Again, by this point you'll probably have a solid affinity with the build that you've got. You'll probably have things gemmed up, you'll probably have certain weapons that you are using, so again, don't be afraid to use them. They are still going to be good, just not quite as effective if you're going to go for a speed run, or you're going to go for a clear run as fast as possible, or maybe you're just wanting to work out ways you can increase your damage. It might be worth having, say for example, 2 hatchets, one that has maybe an arcane gem on or a nature gem on, and one that has something like an ice gem on or a void gem, so you can swap it out, and for this particular instance you would use the nature or arcane. So there's going to be the damage buffs in that one. We've then got Dynasty Shipyard, which is a level 55 dungeon, and this is a really cool one. Again, corrupted, so exactly the same as the previous ones we just spoke about. This is a really cool dungeon, but again, it's going to be really good to have different weapons with different scaling on, or different gems on at the very least. So you've got maybe a nature one like I mentioned before, and one with a slightly different gem, so you can switch out, particularly if you're dead set on using the hatchet or the spear. Then this is going to be really good, because none of them have strengths or weaknesses to each type of mob. They're kind of in the middle, so putting those gems on will really up your damage in particular dungeons. Then we move on to Lazarus Instrumentality, which is down here in Reekwater, and if we have a look at that one, is back to the Ancients. So, as I said before at the beginning of the game, you could make an early game one with certain things on, like a lightning gem or a topaz gem on. This would be also really good to do once you hit level 60 for the exact thing of doing these level 65 expeditions. They're going to be useful to have a topaz gem on a weapon, and again, it's weak to strike damage, so if you are a DPS strength scaling character, certainly try to get a warhammer leveled up and try to have one with a topaz gem on for when you do this expedition, as it will be super effective against these mobs. And again, for any of you late game healers that have got nature gems on, try to just use the life staff. It's probably going to be more effective as they do resist nature damage. Same with anyone with fire or slash damage as well, unfortunately going to be less effective. That being said, moving on to the Garden of Genesis, which is up here at the top in Eden's Grove, and what we're looking at here is Angry Earth. So like I mentioned at the beginning when we were talking about the Angry Earth type of mobs, when you get to Eden's Grove, there is a lot of Angry Earth presence, and that is why the Garden of Genesis has those mobs. Again, a level 65 expedition, and they're going to be weak to fire and slash damage. So again, once you hit level 60, having a build that has either fire on with a gem or indeed slash damage through the weapon you use is going to be very beneficial for this particular expedition, particularly for people that are doing DPS if they can possibly get a fire gem, or indeed the tank if they want to do a little bit more damage as well. And then they're going to be resisting thrust damage and lightning damage to try to steer away from those topaz gems. And I think the intention of this is that you can't have you could have exactly the same weapon build for both Garden of Genesis and Lazarus Instrumentality, but it's going to be more beneficial and you're going to do way more damage if you have a separate one, maybe with fire on for Garden of Genesis and lightning on for Lazarus Instrumentality. So hopefully that has cleared it up for you guys, giving you guys kind of an idea of what's going on in the game, how you can actually use these different weapons and gems to your advantage to increase damage against certain mob types, and as I went over there, the expeditions, so that you can do more damage in those there. Just want to give another big shout out to the guys over at WorldForge. As I said at the beginning of the video, I will leave that website linked in the description so you guys can check it out for yourself to see all of this information if you do want to. Other than that, if you have enjoyed today's video, please do drop a like on the video down below, as it really does help me and the channel out. I really appreciate all of you watching. If you would like to see more New World content and you're not already subscribed, please do subscribe down below with the notification bell on. I've got tons of interesting content that's going to be really useful before and after launch coming up in the next couple of days, up to the next week before we get into launch. We're very close now, so make sure you don't miss out on any of that. If you would like to join our Discord community, the link for that will be in the description and in the comments below. We're now over 700 members, which is crazy good. Tons of people in there chatting all things New World, and even beyond that, just gaming and tech, and it's a lot of fun, so we'd love to have you over there if you're interested in joining. Hit one of those links down below. And if you would like to support me directly here as a content creator on YouTube, then the join button for the membership program is below this video. Click on the button that says join, and that will show you which options we have available there for you as well. And other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, guys. Take care and peace.